You might think that geometry is something you only come across in your math classroom, but geometry is all around us, both in nature and in man-made architecture. This video will focus on circles, angles, and lines, and by its end, not only will you have a better idea of where you can find examples of each of these, but you'll also be more familiar with important vocabulary terms that go along with all three. Let's start with angles. A great example is something you probably see at your school's playground every day, the swing set. The legs of the swing set on either side form an angle. First, we should know the definition of an angle. An angle is a figure that is formed by two rays or two line segments with a common endpoint. The legs of the swing set form the line segments, and where these two line segments meet is our endpoint. In an angle, this endpoint is also called a vertex. A vertex is the point where the sides of an angle meet. Finally, the area between our two line segments is the interior of our angle. Interior is another word to indicate the inside of something. In this case, we're talking about the inside of our angle. To conclude, let's have a quick review of what we've learned about angles. Remember, an angle is a figure formed by two rays or two line segments with a common endpoint. This endpoint is also called a vertex, which just means that it's the point where the two sides of the angle meet. And finally, the interior of an angle is the area between the two rays or line segments that make up the angle. Interior is another word for inside. Now let's move on to lines and line segments. The bike path here is a perfect example of a line. A line is a straight path that extends infinitely in opposite directions. This path isn't perfectly straight, nor does it go on forever, but for our intents and purposes, we'll imagine that it does. The bike path also gives us an example of line segments, which are straight paths that join 2 points. The 2 points are called the endpoints of the segment. About a line segment, we usually give it a name by giving each endpoint a letter. This line segment would be line segment AB. Naming line segments makes it easier to refer to them, especially if your math problem contains more than one line segment. Let's quickly review what we've learned about lines. A line is a straight path that extends infinitely in opposite directions. Roads like the bike path are examples of lines. The bike path also has an example of a line segment, a straight path joining 2 points. These 2 points are called endpoints, and they can be given a letter to name the line segment. We named our line segment segment AB. Lastly, let's take a look at circles. This water fountain is an example of a circle. A circle is the set of all points in a plane that are the same distance from a fixed point in the plane. This fixed point is the center of the circle, and the distance is the radius. The center and the interior of a circle are not a part of the circle. This represents the radius and the center point of the circle. This piece of tape shows the radius of the circle. Remember, the radius is a line segment from the center of the circle to any point on the circle. Next, let's look at the diameter of the circle. The diameter of a circle is a line segment that passes through the center of the circle and has endpoints on the circle. The diameter of a circle is twice the length of its radius. Finally, the circumference of the circle is the distance around the circle, or the perimeter of the circle. Let's review what we've learned about circles. A circle is the set of all points in a plane that are the same distance from a fixed point in the plane. This fixed point is the center of the circle, and the distance is the radius. The diameter is a line segment that passes through the center of a circle and has endpoints on the circle. The diameter of a circle is twice the length of its radius. The circumference is the distance around a circle, or the perimeter of a circle. I hope you've enjoyed this video on real-world geometry. Remember, geometry isn't just in your math classroom, it's present in nature and man-made objects too.